My name is Alex Renicky, and I am doing a report over educational leadership and inclusive leaders as a staff and in the classroom. Here's my bibliography for my two videos that I selected. The first one was a TED Talk by, and excuse my pronunciation, but Sheen Iyengar. And then the second video that I selected was the Jim Kouzes video, Leaders at Google. So I'll go over both of those things. But for right now, let's start with Sheena Iyengar, The Art of Choosing. Sheena Iyengar makes the argument throughout the medium of scientific studies that people perform better not based on race or gender, but by the quantity and quality of choices presented to them. Throughout the video, Ms. Iyengar uses several different scientific experiments to demonstrate the differences in choices based on presentation, the geography of the area of where people live, and even who is giving those particular choices. One of the examples that she used was if mom was to give you an instruction, would you follow that instruction and achieve just the same as if you were making the decision yourself? Okay, so the presentation of that particular choice is what determines your success level on that particular choice. There were basically two assumptions that Iyengar believed factored into decision making. The first one was making sure that you make your own choices, and the second one was more options typically led to better choices, and those better choices led to better success rates. So when children of different races were asked to make a choice and complete a anagram puzzle, race really had little effect on selecting the choice itself if asked to make that choice on their own. There were two different children that were interviewed, two different races of children that were interviewed for this particular scientific experiment. The first were Anglo-American children. They were actually more successful making the choice on their own without any input from the decoy Mrs. Smith or their mothers. While the Asian Americans were actually less successful making the choice on their own. So, in other words, the American children actually performed better by making their choice on their own rather than having their mother or a decoy teacher tell them which ones that they should do. However, Miss Smith and their mother would be asked to tell them, oh, excuse me, I've already covered that. Iyengar continued, when the Asian American children were asked to complete the anagram puzzle their mothers or Miss Smith had chosen, they performed significantly better than the Anglo-American children. All right, so actually the result of cultural differences in the way choices are perceived and executed were the cause of better success rates among children other than Anglo-American children. Okay, so Asian American children were actually better at performing when they were not asked to make the choice themselves. And there's a quote by Iyengar, and she says, "Not everyone sees choice as easy. It can be very confusing and difficult, which eventually can do the exact opposite of what choice intends," by the American perspective, right? And why I say that. Choices are often determined by geography and culture. Okay, bear with me, I am getting to the point of this. Americans are used to multiple choices for just about every product, like soda, for example. An American idea of a soda choice would most likely be between the different types of soda, like Pepsi or Dr. Pepper or Mountain Dew or whatever it may be. Different perceptions of choice. Just because Americans are used to making decisions in this fashion doesn't mean that it's the only way to make a choice in this fashion. Number one, the perception of no choice at all. Number two, too many choices, don't need them at all. Or number three, many choices are trivial and in reality not much different. Or all three different perspectives that are very common around the world. And these are different based on the cultural norms and geography in which these choices are made. The same choice between soda was given to individuals in Eastern Europe, and this was met with indifference, signifying that the choice to be made was unimportant, which indicated that the choice was broken down not into the different types of soda themselves, but simply as one single category of soda. Eastern Europeans turned many choices of soda into one single choice. The Eastern Europeans were given the choice of water, juice, and soda next. Each time, the Europeans would classify each choice into just one category, essentially creating only three different choices instead of saying, oh, apple juice, or orange juice, or grape juice, or Dasani water, or Nestle water. The perception of choice changes based on where you are from in the world and the cultural norms that are present in that area. Eastern Europeans are typically not used to making decisions in that fashion. Okay? Take America versus Russia, for example. People are not used to having that many goods and services in Eastern Europe and Western Russia, and therefore their way of making choices is actually much different than our own. As relating to race, gender, class, access, and equity. In educational administration, it's extremely important that all demographics are equally represented and cared for. So each individual student is just as important as the next. The balance between equity and equality is what an administration strives for. There's a good balance between equity and equality that's trying to be reached. Determining equity and equality can be a very difficult task if the background of staff members and students is not understood. Perception is everything. Two different examples relate the importance of understanding modification and differentiation for staff and students alike. A good administrator will always take into account the demographics of his or her staff and students. Okay, so here are some examples. Using Kouzes' 5 examples of how to lead, the first one being model the way. What are the values of the school? Set the example. We can apply what we know about the culture and background of certain staff to creating a better environment for them. I know it would be important to them to celebrate certain cultural holidays with a small gift of appreciation or something similar. Nothing big, nothing to make them stand out necessarily, but to show them that you are legitimately interested in their background, where they came from, and that signifies a bond of trust that can be made between you and that staff member. You can create a handout that might be filled out by staff members and develop a cultural heritage display in the teacher's lounge, something small but yet meaningful for the staff members to know that you do care about them. And this needs to include everyone, okay? Inclusive leadership means creating an environment welcoming of all people. And this also means that you need to encourage individual choices. Okay? According to Iyengar, choices create a better performance outcome for students and staff alike. The second of Kouzes' leadership principles: inspire a shared vision, envision the future, enlist others. We could create a progressive culture in the school system by allowing staff input and choices about the future of the school. This envisioned future could very well have cultural elements and modification built in already because of the modeling that was shown in the first step of leadership. Reach out to staff members through different exercises who haven't shown initiative in the shared vision process. Email teachers whose opinion has not been shared. Maybe they're too shy to come out in person. Maybe they just need a little bit of a push. Maybe you could give them an email and give them the opportunity to describe their ideas discreetly with no one else knowing. The future of the school system that you create and the environment that you want depends greatly upon the environment and culture created for staff. Once you create that environment for the staff, then the students will follow. It's a tiered system that needs to be followed. Challenging the process. You can search for opportunities around the school and experiment and take risks with different things. Much like envisioning the future, the search for opportunities not only lies with the administrator, but with the staff as well. You could ask for suggestions. What could be better? What could we do better? Where is more administrative assistance needed? What is one opportunity that could be created for your students that requires administrative help? Reach out to those teachers and those staff members that need your help, that may be unaware of how to reach you, what channels to go through in order to ask those kinds of things. This gives them a good opportunity to display what they think needs to happen around the building. And some of these things may be risky. But as Iyengar suggests, the more choices available to students, the more likely they are to be successful in their endeavors. The more choices, the more opportunities that students have. The more opportunities that students have, the more opportunities for success that they may gain. We also need to enable others to act. We need to foster collaboration and strengthen others. By giving staff more choices, collaborating will become natural to all staff. To determine the best course of action with multiple choices, various opinions are divulged. Those opinions eventually merge into one more complex or simple idea, a more accurate decision that is mutually beneficial for all students, which is the exact intent of collaboration. I don't think anybody goes into collaboration thinking, well, I want to get worse at this. Everybody goes into collaboration thinking, we're going to get better at this. We're going to get better so the students can learn more. When the benefits of collaboration are seen, more staff will become directly engaged, which strengthens the staff as a whole. Encourage the heart. You should recognize contributions and celebrate value and victory. When a staff member or student donates a positive contribution to the school system, whether that is through advocacy, confidence, determination, improvement, positive attitude, respect, scholarship, or service, the member should be recognized individually in the manner they would like to be recognized. Okay, so give them the choice. They don't have to be recognized in front of the entire school. You could send them an email of appreciation for their efforts and whatever good deed that they did. I personally know several people that would be mortified if they were selected to be honored in front of an entire school. Through contributions and the ability to choose how they would like to be recognized, the staff and students will continually celebrate their value as well as their colleagues and peers. This increases morale. Better morale for the staff means better morale for the students, which means better success. There are lots of challenges that go along with the leadership process. Big challenges go hand in hand with the leadership process. It's difficult. Hard decisions must be made frequently. But Kouzes argues that there are 5 dysfunctions leaders face: absence of trust, a fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, inattention to results. With dealing with challenges of inclusion, the absence of trust and fear are the most influential of the dysfunctions Kouzes describes. Fear of conflict, excuse me. An inclusive environment must include these principles, otherwise constituents will feel excluded and possibly unwanted, which leads to unmotivated staff and students. So Jim Kouzes was his leading at Google presentation. It was based on the 5 principles of leadership that I just described with Ms. Iyengar's presentation. But on leadership, Jim Kouzes says, leadership is an identifiable set of skills and practices that are available to all of us. It's a relationship between those who aspire to lead and those who choose to follow. One of the sayings that the head football coach here at Manhattan High says is, we can't have too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Somebody has to lead, and there has to be followers to lead to follow that leader. Kouzes argues that the most important part of being a leader is following through with what you say you're going to do. You have to model that behavior. Why do you think politicians have so much trouble keeping positive public opinion? Few people like a person who rescinds on their word. Okay, so politicians, they do not keep their word very often. Consequently, they aren't liked as often as they would like to be. Kouzes also lays out the guideline for constituents as the vision of the future that connects people to the shared idea of the school system. So you have to inspire that shared vision. This vision must be clear and concise, and it is a direction that everyone will follow. Challenging the process is best described as meaningful challenge that inspires others to engage in improving themselves and an organization. That was a quote by Jim Kouzes. He says, as leaders, we have to be able to create the environment that we feel is the best and most beneficial to all students and staff members. This means challenging the status quo. If something needs fixed, fix it in the most efficient and equitable way possible. Find nuances in the system that need streamlined and create an environment of continual improvement. Enabling others to act is best done, according to Kouzes, through nimble collaboration. We want our leaders to be nimble collaborators so they don't step on others' feet, yet they still allow for staff members to have choices of their own. How often does a leader encourage a staff member to feel welcome to act on their own issue? In order for staff and students to feel as though they are contributing, leaders must recognize and genuinely acknowledge the accomplishments that are made throughout the school system. People need encouragement.